a guy put out the other, just, in the last 24 hours, it says below are the RCP polling trends for Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin over the last week. There is a precise movement towards Trump from everyone not named Bloomberg or Morning Consult, right? This trend over and over again in all of the polling, this is something that I've been telling the audience, looks like, not necessarily one poll, but when you look at the overall trends, especially that blue wall, looks like there's some cracks in it.
Yeah, look, we look at two different things. The first is these averages like you're talking about. I want to know what all the polls are saying in aggregate, and I like what I'm seeing. The second thing that we want to do is we want to look at any particular poll and look at where it was a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or 2020, 2016. And I really like what we're seeing in all of the battleground states when you take a look at the historical nature of this. When you think about where were we on September 20th of this year versus September 20 of 16 versus September 20 of 2020. And we're in better shape across the board. So I like what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, I'm going to give you my ranking. Tell me what you think of this. So I think Arizona is the most likely state of the 7 battlegrounds to go for Trump, then Georgia, then North Carolina. Nevada, to me, is sort of my middle ground. And then I go back and forth, but I think it's something like Wisconsin or Michigan, and then the other one, and then Pennsylvania. What do you think of that list?
I like that list a lot. I think Pennsylvania feels pretty good right now.
Right.
We're seeing a lot of trends. We're seeing a lot of numbers. I think that, like you say, Arizona is probably outside the margin right now. I think that we're showing leads in the other states. With North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada that are inside margins, and then basically virtual ties up in Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin. So I like where we're at right now. Again, I think that we've got a lot of paths to 270. Donald Trump is playing offense, and Kamala Harris is absolutely playing defense. When you look at their ad buys, they're buying ads in a lot of states that they carried in 2020, and I think we're playing offense in a lot of states, even Virginia. We're continuing to show sparks of life out there in a pretty good way, and Glenn Youngkin showed us the way in 2021, and he's been a fantastic leader for us in that state right now.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in Virginia. I was the last elector for Virginia, as I like to tell the audience, 2004. What outside the 7 battleground states do you think might be a surprise on election night?
Well, I would say start with Virginia, right? And then I think, we'll see what happens in Minnesota. We'll see what happens in New Hampshire, we're continuing to see a lot of support for the president, even in places like, New Jersey and New York. That rally that we had in New York was a lot of fun. We're going to be going back to New York at some time, would be my guess. 107,000 people showing up in New Jersey. But, what you can say is look at where the president has been traveling. The president has been traveling.
So can I expect him back? What do you got? So look, you win states where you put resources in terms of swing states. Are you guys willing to commit, or what have you committed to a state like Virginia?
I'm not going to talk about the individual specifics on it, but the fact is that the president did a rally there. We've got J.D. Vance has been doing events there. I'm going to be down there. So there's interest there. The focus is going to remain the 7 states that decided 2016, that decided 2020, and are going to decide 2024.
All right. So let me just, before we get into registration and some of the wonky stuff, when you look at issues that you think matter to voters who are making that last minute decision, right? We hear about all these abortion, the gender gap, the black. What are the issues that you think are pushing people over the top that are keeping them from that decision, right? I mean, in my opinion, and probably in your opinion, this is an easy case. What is it that the undecided, low propensity voter cares about?
They care about jobs. They care about the economy. They care about prices, grocery prices, gasoline prices, housing prices. I think that there was a lot of shock at the Department of Homeland Security statistics that were dropped last week on illegal immigration, the number of convicted felons, the number of convicted rapists, the number of convicted murderers that are in the United States right now because our border czar, Kamala Harris, has invited all of those folks to come across the border over the course of the last 4 years. And I think people are watching what's happening right now between Iran and Israel and are very, very nervous about where we stand on the world stage. Is America truly strong enough to protect our interests and our allies' interests at home and abroad? So those are really the three buckets that we're kind of watching right now. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing solid leads for Donald Trump on the issue polls for every single one of them.
So we talk a lot about low propensity voters, people who have just registered, people who have voted in 1 of 4 elections, maybe 2 of 4 elections. Take us inside your operation. How do you get those people? The media tells us that they are low information people. They're not watching this show. They're not watching the evening newscast. How do you guys reach those folks and make the case about Donald Trump's record and record of results versus the Biden-Harris record?
Well, two different things. First off, there's very traditional outreach methods. We're sending direct mail, we're sending texts, we're sending emails, we're making phone calls, we're knocking on doors. And these are things that campaigns have done really over the last several decades. The other thing that we're doing is that we're going out to our base voters, our primary voters, high propensity voters, that are signing up to be part of our Trump Force 47 campaign. And we're asking them, here's a list of people in your community that we haven't had a chance to talk to. Will you go talk to them? What we're seeing is a dramatically higher percentage of the conversations that we're targeting we're getting than we have in the past, because we've been very, very focused on who we're going to talk to and what those conversations are going to look like.
Somebody that I know who went to vote early shared with me an anecdote from the other side and said when they voted, they got geo-targeted from the other side. And it said, "Dear Bob, thanks for voting, but we noticed that, your wife and daughter haven't voted yet. Can you make a plan for them?" What kind of data and technology is being utilized on our side?
Well, I think we're obviously tracking everybody that goes to vote. We're tracking the people that we have identified as low propensity voters and even our high propensity voters. And we're going to them and we're having a conversation early on the front end. We're saying, look, it is great if you want to vote early. It is great if you want to vote by mail. It's great if you want to vote on election day. Just make a plan, right? Let us know what your plan is. We'll follow up with you to make sure that you execute on that plan and get that vote out. Then we want you to identify 10 people in your community. Maybe they're at your church, they're at your workplace, they're home, they're family members, they're friends. When you can go identify those 10 additional people and get them to commit to vote, that is going to cut through the clutter. Right now, we're starting to get into the zone of the last, month of this election cycle, where you have a barrage of texts, a barrage of emails. There's TV ads all day, every day on every single station, and it becomes noise. The one thing that cuts through all of that clutter is a 5-minute conversation with somebody that you trust, and that's the backbone of our grassroots effort.
Okay, let's talk. I want to break this down slowly. Let's go registration, then early vote, and then get out the vote, right? Early absentee and all that. So let's start by registration. The numbers to me don't lie. And this is beautiful. In Arizona and then in Pennsylvania and other states, you're seeing this registration gap. You look at, let's take Arizona first. I feel very good when I look at the numbers. What do you see in Arizona when it comes to registration? Because to me, it seems like those counties outside of Maricopa are really growing in your favor and in Donald Trump's favor.
Yeah, and we continue to like what we see in Maricopa as well. I think that Arizona is really truly starting to move outside the margin in terms of the polling, and the fact that voter registration numbers are as positive as they are looks really good to us. You mentioned Pennsylvania. We have basically cut the margin, the Democrat lead in voter registration, in half. And we're continuing to make gains every single day. In North Carolina, we've cut it by 2/3. In Florida, we now have 1 million more registered Republicans than registered Democrats. So on a whole, in these battleground states, we really are liking what we see in terms of people leaving the Democratic Party, people who are coming to the Republican Party. And across the board, we're seeing more independents or unaffiliateds that are registering, which gives us a great opportunity to go talk to those people about the issues they care about, because Republicans are listening and putting solutions on the table.
So in Pennsylvania in particular, you're right, all across the board, in county after county after county, 63 of 67 counties shifted Republican. That's huge, right? You look at Fayette County, Luzerne County, they've shifted from Democrat to Republican. Just operationally, what has changed with how you guys do business? It's very expensive to register people to vote, right? Is this you guys working with outside groups? Is it outside groups? What's to account for this shift?
Well, I think there is an effort that we are putting on the ground. I think there's an effort that outside groups are putting on the ground, and you cannot discount the fact that voters tend to register based on their emotions at the time. Kamala Harris and the inflation that she has triggered, the immigration invasion that she has triggered, has forced a lot of people to reassess whether they want to be Democrats or not. The number of people that I talk to who say, you know what, I used to be a Democrat, I've always been a Democrat, but this Democratic Party is absolutely crazy, I can't support this anymore, is a very real number that we're seeing. And so, we're seeing Democrat to unaffiliated voter shifts in a big way. We're seeing Democrat to Republican. We're seeing some unaffiliated or independent to Republican. But by far the biggest thing that we're seeing is people who are leaving the Democratic Party because they frankly can't afford to make it to the end of the month the way that they were able to under Donald Trump. And they're not going to support this candidate and this ticket.
So let's talk about early vote absentee ballot, right? This is key. You guys, the RNC has made a big effort. Bank your vote. Glenn Youngkin made a big deal out of it in Virginia. Where does that stand? When I talked to James Blair, the Trump political director, a couple days ago, he was very encouraged by early signs, especially in Virginia, that Republican early vote was up about 200%. Where it was last cycle. Obviously, the Dems up 100%, but we're doing better. Where are you seeing signs of promise in the early vote and the absentee vote in the 7 battleground states?
In all 7. I think
really?
Right now, look, right now what we're seeing, and let's take Pennsylvania and North Carolina because those are the ones where absentee ballots are already going out. We have seen a dramatic shortfall for the Democrats of what they were able to produce in 2020. I think that even shortfalls versus what they did in 2022, so that the gap between Republicans and Democrats on those absentee ballot requests is dramatically lower in both of those states. When you look at Virginia, as you just mentioned, where they don't have the absentees, but they do have the early vote, we really like the numbers that we're seeing there. So I think that that's going to be a trend we're going to continue to see. And look, Republicans have always won Election Day. We are going to win Election Day. We feel very comfortable about that. It's really about how behind are we when we're coming out of the early and absentee phase.
Right. I mean, that's where I think the media gets this wrong. We won't win the early vote, right? But we're doing better, and we swamp them in Election Day. So if we can close that gap in the early and the absentee vote and then continue to outperform on Election Day, we win. I mean, that's the formula, right?
Yeah, and what we have a set up and are running at this point in time is essentially a nationwide early vote program. Over half of the votes in the entire country are going to be cast before Election Day. You cannot wait until the week before the election to start communicating with people, to start sending mail, to start running TV ads. You've got to move those communications earlier and earlier and earlier in order to make sure that on the front end, you have informed voters that are going to be casting their votes this way. And so we feel very good about where we are in terms of our grassroots programs, in terms of our digital communications, the TV ads, and all of the different voter contacts that we've had. And Donald Trump has been living in these 7 battleground states with the rallies, with his messaging events, and with his direct communication that is targeting all of the different voters across the country.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.